Supreme Court decision and the election last November made the President's health care mandates the law of the land. We will support a 3-year expansion of our Medicaid program under the new health care law, as long as the federal government meets their commitment to pay 100% of the cost during that time. It is not a white flag of surrender to government-run health care.
Well, first of all, Medicare is today looking after the poor. What Obamacare is doing is a huge expansion of it as a way to absorb people who aren't poor but above the line, as a way to essentially have national coverage, almost universal coverage. Now you can argue yes or no on that, but that's what's being done. I think as to a Republican conservative who oppose Obamacare taking it if he's a governor, I think you can act honorably either way. You can oppose it and have opposed it all the way, and then say, well, you lost the fight. It's the law of the land. It passed in Congress. It got the signature of the president. It was approved by the Supreme Court. And when the president ran for re-election against somebody who would abolish it, president wins. That's a pretty strong endorsement of this, however much you may not like it. And the fact is that now that it exists as the person who's responsible for the welfare of the people in your state, what do? I think it's honorable to say I will take the money because the people in my state are paying in the federal taxes, are subsidizing people in other states. Or you could argue the other way and say I still want to keep up the fight in the hope that if enough states stay out, it'll collapse. I'm not sure that's a real prospect, but I don't think either position is dishonorable or cowardly.
But isn't the biggest problem, if you have this major expansion and you put more and more people on Medicaid in your state, that it's likely that those people are not coming off Medicaid, or at least it will be extremely painful if they do?
That's because Obamacare has passed. It's the law of the land, and the essence of Obamacare is a huge expansion of the federal subsidies of health care, including people who are above the poverty line. It's a way to go from a state that looks after a safety net of people who can't afford it to a state where everybody gets it, as in Europe, and that's universal. But that's the essence of Obamacare, and it passed.
Kirsten, what we're not mentioning here is the solvency of Medicaid and how doctors, how many doctors are able to take it and all that stuff.
I think it is insolvent. I think it's a terrible idea, and I wish it hadn't passed.
What I say to them is that there's no reason they should be furloughed. There's no reason they should lose their job or be laid off. This is a problem that Congress can solve. These automatic spending cuts that were put into place back in 2011 were designed to get Congress to actually avoid them by coming together with more sensible approaches to deficit reduction.
President Obama talking to a local affiliate about the sequester. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor saying House Republicans have acted. It's time for the President and Senate Democrats to join us. It's time to get off the campaign trail and get to work. Show us what spending reductions you prefer, and let's find some common ground.
If the President says it doesn't have to happen, he's right. All he has to do is to say he's prepared to speak to Republicans about shifting accounts. In other words, by having the same amount of cuts, but actually having to make choices, priorities, which is what governing is all about. And that's why you have a budget. X is important, so it gets supported. Y is less important, it gets cut. He is saying, I'm not going to do that.
As Gene Sperling said, no off-ramps.
Yes,
I think he said 4 times.
Yeah.
Off-ramps.
The off-ramp is a negotiation on allowing the money to move around accounts. The one thing that that Obama is not facing is the fact that even if all the cuts are enacted, it's 1/20th of the annual deficit. It is doing absolutely nothing, and still, he says, it's utterly impossible. And this is the only chance of having any cuts out of this administration between today and January 2017.
So does it happen?
Yes.
This has been a Sunfish production.